We have another colorful week full of planetary transits. In this week's astrology, Scorpio season begins, causing us to transform our ego issues. There's another yod pattern occurring, which may lead to miscommunication and overthinking. And it's another busy week for Mercury transits, which might lead to the urge for interaction one moment and then pulling back the next because we're in our heads more than typical. Considering we're getting into Scorpio season, that pullback game might be stronger than usual. And speaking of which, the vibes on the graph are 100% reflective of a lot of this water energy and intuitive tones. Mental energy will be present until the 22nd and mixed with solitude, imagination, and confusion, along with psychic tones. Because this week is filled with complex transits, it's easier than typical to get in our heads. It's easier than typical to want some personal space because we're probably feeling more touchier than typical, but also needing to sort out fact from fiction with some of the energies that are going on. We have some Neptunian stuff occurring throughout this week, and so we're really going to need to sort out what's real and what might not be based in reality. And those psychic tenors are going to be with us until the 25th. These intuitive tones are going to mix in with emotional sensitivity, ambition, and good luck as well. This is one of those weeks where we might be more sensitive to energies than we typically are, and again, feeling nebulous, feeling very foggy about things. And also we may need to separate our emotions from others because maybe we're picking up other people's stuff and other people's energies and not able to decipher which feelings might be ours versus theirs. So it's totally a week to break out the sage and try to ground your energy as much as possible. But we do have some saving grace energy throughout this week, and also we have some good luck energy, so there may be moments where we're able to take a step back and get grounded and go after some fortunate opportunities that can help us in the long run and make progress, maybe getting out of a stale period as well. And so yeah, yet another week of October with some complex energies. Let's look at these next bunch of days and see what we can expect. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps this channel grow. Also, if you're looking for a natal chart reading or intuitive coaching, the links will be in the description box below. And if you'd like to support the work of this channel, you could do so by buying me a fresh cup of coffee. The link will be in the description box below as well. Monday's bringing in two dissimilar alignments, with the Sun making a Sesquiquadrate with Saturn, but also Mercury's making a trine with Saturn on that same day. So the interesting dichotomy of all of this is we may have confidence issues arising throughout this day and some self-doubt, but there might be moments where we're starting to feel solid again. Saturn's being aspected by both planets on a not so rosy note and a positive way can make us feel like we're vacillating on this day. Just unintentionally made that rhyme, but with the Sun Sesquiquadrate Saturn situation, we might have moments where we're feeling a sense of dread. There may be moments where we feel as though things aren't going the way we'd like them to go. In other words, maybe we've been working hard at something and it's feeling as though we're not chipping away at anything. Maybe we're not feeling like we're making progress. And as a result, it's deflating our ego a bit. It's causing a bit of demotivation because we're not seeing the movement that we'd like to see. Sometimes this could be about recognition when it comes down to work or any other achievements we're trying to make happen for ourselves. Or just overall feeling deflated about something. Maybe we're feeling stifled when it comes down to our personality and our identity or our sense of self. So because of this, it brings on quite a gloomy tone to it. And so there's going to definitely be a need to build ourselves up in any way we can so we're not beating ourselves up or finding ourselves dwelling on things that we really have no control over. But one thing to note with Saturn situations, and I always bring this up especially when we have complex Saturn situations, a lot of the time when we're doing what we need to, we're doing the hard work, it does eventually pay off even if we can't see it right now. So try to cut yourself some slack and go back to whatever it is that you're working on because it will pay off in the long run. Luckily, there is some mitigation from this Mercury trine Saturn situation that we have occurring. So this can help us take some serious steps to improve our mindset and a lot of our situations. Maybe we're needing to come up with a new game plan for something that, just has gotten stuck for a little bit and it just needs a little bit of reworking. Or maybe we're finding ourselves coming back to something that we got sidetracked from and now we're feeling like we have the stamina needed to move on with that task. Even if it does seem like it's a lot of hard work, we might that we're starting to build up the stamina that maybe we lost momentum on. Maybe we're actually pushing through some of those gloomy feelings and that sense of dread to get things done. But whatever it is, we're ready to restructure that. We're also ready to reframe our thoughts too, especially if we found ourselves in a stuck mindset, or if we found ourselves feeling just more limited or gloomy, especially with that Sun-Saturn situation going on. This might be a time where we take a step back and like, no, I need to look at this situation differently so I'm not going on this toxic loop and then finding myself stuck again, or allowing negative thoughts or imposter syndrome to take hold because we're just over it and we're ready to improve our mindset. Also, this could be a day for having deeper conversations, more productive conversations. So if we needed more meaningful exchanges in our life, this is a great day for this type of energy. Hopefully, it mitigates some of the other stuff coming up the next day, because now we've got Mercury making this Sesquiquadrate with Neptune on the 22nd, and we're gonna definitely have to separate fact from fiction and make sure that we're not getting too jumbled, because a vibe like this tends to rev up our imagination, but not in the most healthy way. As a matter of fact, it could be a day where we're finding ourselves imagining scenarios that aren't necessarily grounded in reality and piecing things together that may not actually be concrete. So we need to be aware of that, because energy like this tends to rev up an obstructed view of a situation, and so we may think something is one way and it really is another, and misunderstand someone, miscommunicate something because we maybe weren't hearing them correctly. So we're taking whatever they said the wrong way because of the fogginess and sensitivity that comes with this energy. Also, we may feel demotivated again with energy like this, and hopefully that Saturn situation is mitigating that, because a lot of the time that helps us pull through some of those types of moments where we just don't feel encouraged to take care of tasks that we need to take care of. So there could be moments where we push through some of this and we're able to see things for what they actually are with that Mercury-Saturn situation from the other day that we're still feeling. Coming back to communication, we also need to be aware of believing everything that we hear. Sometimes energy like this can be harmless exaggeration from others, and other times someone intentionally being cryptic, misleading you, and other forms of fuckery that tend to happen with this. Sometimes this can show up as someone intentionally withholding information from you. So that's another thing to be aware of with energy like this. And if you have anything important that you need to sign up for, documents, agreements, contracts, subscriptions, please go over everything. Do not just sign up impulsively, because this tends to rev up impulsivity and not looking at the fine print. When we get Mercury-Neptune situations and also Mercury-Jupiter situations, there tends to be skimming going on in a harder alignment. So we just need to be aware of that to make sure we're getting a fair deal, or whatever we're trying to work out or resolve goes in our favor. The 22nd continues to be a complex day with Venus making a sesquiquadrate with Chiron. And so this may have us looking at where we may need to make changes when it comes down to relationship patterns, whether that be romantic, platonic, and any form of one-on-one relationships and partnerships. This could be a time where we're working on those patterns. So it could be a time where we're reviewing what's hindered our happiness when it comes down to these situations. Maybe we're finding ourselves dwelling on the past. Maybe we're just revisiting those old memories of things that happened. So it's a reflective day, not a comfortable reflection day, but it's a day where we might be dealing with stuff we might have suppressed for a while because we just didn't have the bandwidth to deal with it. And this is coming up so that we can fix these problems. We can resolve these problems. Of course, they're not overnight, so it's not something that's going to be fixed within a day. But a lot of the times when we see these types of energies, it's giving us that nudge to start healing from those things. And by that, starting a process that's going to help us purge out some of that behavior and some of that toxic shame and disappointment that we felt from those situations. Things like this come up so that we value ourselves more, so that we're not staying in unfulfilling relationships or work situations or other scenarios in life where we feel underappreciated. Maybe we're learning that we've been giving too much of ourselves and it's time to set some healthy boundaries, because maybe we've lost ourselves being everything to everyone and codependency. And so this is coming up so that we can recognize the parts of ourselves that it's time to heal, so that way we can move forward and make progress in these areas of our lives. Continuing with the 22nd, which happens to be a supercharged and potent day, Scorpio season is beginning, but we also have an alignment with Pluto that may feel complex. But welcome to Scorpio season 2024, and happy birthday to all the Scorpios out there. As we transition out of Libra's harmonious vibe, our energy shifts to a more take life more seriously tone. Scorpio season really shifts our ego needs. Anytime we have sign changes, we get that shift, but this one becomes so apparent, especially after shifting from a sign that's a little more lighthearted like Libra to Scorpio, which takes a more intense look at our situations and the way we gain our confidence, our identity, our sense of self and authenticity. Because what this pairing does is it sharpens our attention to what's important. So our egos may feel sensitive and able to pick things up. There's more of a intuitive but intense tone to this energy. We become less concerned about service level things, and we become more in tune to what's profound and what we need to work on. We become more interested in truthfulness and the realness of life. And so Scorpionic energy gives us the strength to go beyond the surface and handle complex issues that really need our attention. And the way this week is shaping up with all of the harder transits, our attention is definitely going on those things. So in a way, having the Scorpionic energy is a blessing because it helps us sift through these things and actually take a look at them, because we may feel more ready than we have before. And it doesn't have to be crazy stuff. It could just be superficial things in life. Maybe it's time to start looking at things we've been putting off for a while because maybe we didn't have the bandwidth to go that deep, and now we're ready to focus on that so we can transform those circumstances and get to the next level to wherever we need to be. Energy like this helps us look at what we need to purge out of our lives. So it might be time for a much needed detox. And this detox can be anything. It could be our diets. It could be eliminating harmful stimuli. It might quite literally be eliminating things like whatever you're taking in, whether that be media, social media, stuff that just isn't feeding your soul. Not that there's anything wrong with social media and you know, consuming certain types of content, but sometimes for some people it can be a lot and they're ready to get out of a possible scroll hole they might have been in for a while because maybe it was simply a distraction and taking their mind off of what's really actually important and what matters. And of course, that could be anything, but this energy really puts our attention on what needs a deep cleanse. Another thing that can come up in this energy is finding ways to protect our ego. In other words, this might be a time to ensure that we're surrounded by the right people and things that aren't harmful to us and may actually come into play when it comes down to eliminating what's not good for us, but also in a disempowering way. Scorpio energy is about standing in our own personal power, and sometimes to do that, we need to get more protective with ourselves. Sure, there is a lower expression to this energy. That's a slippery slope within this. But at the same time, when it's used for a more productive situation, it's really helpful in guarding ourselves from those who are trying to throw their weight around or surrounding ourselves in other disempowering situations. And sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes it's just an amped up need to be cautious in this type of energy. So it may be a period where we're a little more guarded. It may be a period where we're not rushing into things and doing things on impulse. We might be a little leery about certain things. We tend to get more reserved in this energy. This is also why it's quite an abrupt switch from Libra's friendly approach. We may just be more trepidatious when it comes down to our social situations as a result of this energy. Of course, this is not to say we're not going to socialize, because there's no getting around that. Although we've got a lot of that solitude energy on the graph, we still have social situations that we're going to have to engage in. So it's not as if we're not going to interact with others, but within this energy, we may prefer more one-on-one situations, select few people, and those who are profound and feed our soul, because the mindless chatter and superficial stuff may not matter to us as much. And that's also another reason why we might feel the need to retreat a little more in this energy. Sometimes the mindlessness is too much, but not only that, we become more attuned and sensitive to energies within this. And sometimes that's a lovely thing, but sometimes that's not, and you don't want to pick up everyone's energy. And so we might find ourselves being a little more reserved and protective of that, so that way we're not feeling disruptive on a psychic level within this energy. Of course, there is a lower expression, as there is any time a planet changes signs, and this is no different. The trepidatious energy of this, where I was saying this can be a neutral expression, because one, it has its things where being protective is important, but also there can be moments where we are being too closed off. And so if we're finding ourselves in the antisocial club or anything that really shuts ourselves out of participation, we'll probably need to check that. Another thing that can arise from this energy is suspicion being revved up. Sometimes this can show up in the form of distrust, which leads to jealousy, sometimes vindictiveness, and other times obsessing about a situation that's not healthy for us. So we need to be aware of those things and try to ground ourselves when that type of stuff is taking hold. On top of that, that same day on the 22nd, the sun's going to be squaring the modern ruler of Scorpio. And so we have a sun square Pluto situation occurring. And so this can further rev up the lower vibrations of Scorpio. So we'll need to refrain from any of that behavior that I was mentioning before in terms of the vindictiveness, the jealousy. Sometimes within this energy, there could be bruised egos. Sometimes it could be obsessiveness. Sometimes it could be situations where we're dealing with forceful personalities. Also, we have Pluto at the 29th degree of Capricorn. So this could literally be dealing with people who are really trying to throw their weight around in terms of their power and influence on a world stage, or whether you're dealing with people who are just complete assholes in real life, who need to throw their weight around in order to feel above other people and important. On a constructive note, this could draw our focus to things that really need our attention and require change and transformation. So it may be a day to use this energy to confront long-standing problems that really need our attention. So as we get to the weekend, we do have one mitigating alignment with Mars and Uranus, but we also have a yod that's occurring during that time, which might throw a little bit of a monkey wrench in certain situations. However, I hope we're feeling this Mars sextile Uranus energy for the next 3 days. We'll have this over the weekend. We may be feeling some of this actually until maybe Monday, Tuesday. Mars is actually slowing down because Mars is going retrograde. So this also happens to be a pre-shadow alignment scenario. So we're going to get this 3 more times. And this is a very constructive and helpful alignment that we absolutely need. This week has been heavy. This week has had a lot of crazy stuff going on. And so this may be the much needed motivation and energization that we need to really make some progress and get back on our feet. So if we felt thwarted, stagnated in some sort of way, I mean, this could be from this week, but also other scenarios. This is going to help us push through and also find solutions to complex concerns going on in our life. Maybe we had issues that were kind of a conundrum or things that we just couldn't solve, and this is going to help us have that eureka moment. Also with this too, it helps us get out of our comfort zone, coming back to that ruddy energy. If we've been in a rut for a while and it's time for us to make some progress in our life, this may help us get that extra boost and encouragement that we need to do that, and to stop repeating patterns and habits that are no longer serving us. And especially when it comes down to authenticity, this might be one of those alignments that helps us get in touch with that. So the urge to be ourselves and to pursue the things that we want in our life is going to be stronger than typical. And this is going to come up a few more times during the retrograde, so this might be your time to really get back on track with whatever it is that you need to get back on track with, especially if you're being aspected by this. Then on top of that, we've got that yod pattern going on. We've got ourselves another finger of God that's happening and just thrown in for good measure. And so energy like this can feel absolutely intense. It can feel like there's extra pressure on a lot of Mercurial and Chiron things, as well as Jupiter. Mercury happens to be at the base of this yod. It happens to be at the apex point. We have a Jupiter-Chiron sextile, and both of these celestial bodies happen to be making quincunxes with Mercury. So this is going to amp up a lot of confusion and pressure when it comes down to things dealing with the details, anything to do with communication, listening, thinking, issues with the facts, issues with data, and any form of information. And so there might be a lot of disruption around that energy during this time. With the Chiron stuff, maybe this is a good time for us to start breaking old patterns, especially when it comes to a harsh mindset, which was an ongoing theme through this week, or working on the ways we communicate with people. With the Jupiter stuff thrown in, it could be a time where we're noticing an uptick of dishonesty, arrogance, intellectual snobbery, criticism of others, belligerent tendencies, and just opinionated and dogmatic matters that are just very annoying to deal with. And so hopefully we're not feeling as thrown off by this energy, although it's very possible because yods happen to have a more potent sort of vibe to them. But we have that Mars-Uranus sextile, so maybe it might help us push through some of these challenging energies at the end of the week. So yeah, yet another week of Octobering with all these planetary transits. So do the best you can when all these energies are hit and try to ground yourselves the best way you can. Anyway, I hope you guys have the most constructive week ever. Later, and see you in the next episode.